Subscribe to our channel, press the bell icon and never miss an update from Latestly.
First of all, welcome to Latestly. I remember back in 2002, you made a film titled Company that exposed the Mafia world. Cut to 2021, your obsession with the underbelly of Mumbai continues as you make a similar film. The title is different, D Company. I'm sure there's so many elements which are going to be different, but what is this obsession with the gritty, grungy underbelly of Mumbai that fascinates you, that continues to fascinate you?
I think the word is right, what you use, obsession. Actually, my obsession with the dark side of people started with me loving bullies in my classroom, in my school days, who they would throw chalk pieces and who pull hair and pinch from behind. I think it started right from there. And then it probably went into street gundas in Hyderabad and all that. And then in Satya time, I kind of, because I'm from Hyderabad, I first time saw pictures of some gangsters, and there was a very heavy activity in the 95, 97 time, if you remember, And that was my basic inspiration to make Satya. Mm-hmm. And of course, Company was almost like a follow-up to that a few years later. And the difference in D Company is, see, all those were imaginations, not like I never met a gangster or I never really know the inside stories of the underworld. Mm-hmm. It's more picked up from some written thing, some column and somebody telling something. It was like very, very superficial and peripheral, But 2-3 years back, actually happened to meet people who really worked in the so-called D Company. Why I'm saying so-called, but D Company is not a registered company. It's just a name given to a criminal organization founded by Dawood, So I was fascinated with what I heard from these people. Some of them were ex-cops, retired cops. Some of them were gangsters who were in jail and came out. And a combination of all of them, the material they gave me, because it's so far behind them, they feel comfortable in talking a lot of details which they probably would have never told anybody before. So if you look at it, the entire Bombay underworld, from the time Dawood started as a street goon in Dogri in 1980, till the time Chota Rajan was arrested in Bali in 2015. So it's almost like a 35-year-old saga of D Company in a way. Okay, so out of which I made 1982 when Dawood just started off and his brother was killed by the Pathans and how he avenged it. So, life is a continuing process. So I thought that by itself is a film in terms of how actually Bombay City first heard of this man called Dawood Ibrahim, So, and then after making this, now we are going to make a series on the entire 35 years.
Okay.
Under the same name, D Company.
Right.
So this film almost don't say start to finish story by itself what it has. It is intended to be designed as a trailer for the series which is going to come next. Yeah.
Quite interesting.
So I guess that's the
yeah. Quite interestingly, there is if I'm not mistaken, there is a lizard in your office called Dawood Ibrahim. Did that lizard provide a source of inspiration?
It is not exactly a lizard. I would say it's a giant chameleon.
Yeah. So did that sort of, pun intended, was that an inspiration as well? Somehow pushed you? That
I don't know if you saw this one. I also had one statue. Of a dog, a bulldog, which I called it Osama bin Laden. So basically, coming back to what you said, my fascination for these so-called dark, violent figures, I tend to name things after them, things like that. Yeah.
Who knows? The next one could be on Osama bin Laden from your factory, from your company.
Yeah. Yeah.
You sort of, if you see the template of your films, especially when it comes to crime saga, the dark emotions, the undercurrent of violence, the weird camera angles, even those elements continue to stay. What is your take on
I didn't get the question. Are you talking about the
about
camera
your
angles?
own films, about your own
Talking
films?
the camera.
Yes, yes. The question is all those.
Yeah, honestly, I honestly don't understand this whole thing when people say about weird camera angles. See, when as a filmmaker, I would have a certain perspective how I want to see someone or see something. So it is on that instinct. At least I have weird camera angles. Others don't have that also because they pretty much do it very conventional. So obviously, the characters I design, the camera, the kind of background score I use, all of them come from within a certain sensibility and a personality of mine. And if it's effective enough, it will stand out.
Absolutely. And as you said, not doing things with convention. In fact, unconventional is what you are synonymous with. While the Chopras and the Johars of the world were fascinated by sanskari values and karwa chauth and shadi and hum saas hai kind of thing, you were exposing the real world. You were exposing the real world, the real side of life through your films. So was that a conscious choice that you made? Was that a conscious choice on your part to make gritty, realistic films in order to create the much needed contrast?
See, I think all of us, without exception, we are kind of shaped up from the time we are born to maybe the kind of books which interest you, the kind of company you keep, the kind of circumstances you probably grew up, and all these things. And so, for example, interestingly, when Karan Johar told me that Kabhi Kabhi was his most favorite film of Mr. Bachchan, that's the only film I hated of Mr. Bachchan, incidentally. Like that in Silsila. Because I used to be moving around with all these dadas, We used to go to see Kala Pathar and Diwar and all that, So that very masala oriented and Amitabh Bachchan ki dialogue bazi and all that. So, and I don't want to see Amitabh Bachchan in a romantic role, and that's my this thing. So, I think what you grew up on, what films kind of impress you, what kind of films shaped your taste and sensibility, that is bound to have an influence on if you become a filmmaker, what kind of films you make. So, I think we grew up on very different kind of cinema. And having said that, I don't know if it is really realistic. They make unrealistic. I think films are made for different purposes. I mean, I don't think there's any rule that you have to make it for this. I mean, there are people who enjoy films with all these songs and romantic songs and all that. A lot of people do that, So I would like to say that they cater to a very different kind of sensibility in audience, whereas I don't connect to that. For example, I know rom-com is a very popular genre, but I never saw a rom-com film in my life.
Right. But of course, that unmistakable, unmissable element of rom-com was there in Rangila. And even if it was a romantic kind of film in that genre, the grungy texture was unmissable.
The hallmark though people say that, I think Rangila is actually, for me, it's a very gritty film because the locations it's been shot and the kind of clothes Amir wears, that is not usually done in a love story, It is as real as it can get.
Yes, and the characters were also imperfect and flawed. The characters were flawed.
Correct. So for me, Rangila, I saw it more like I was trying to pay homage to the musicals of Hollywood, especially Sound of Music, Like Sound of Music is one film. I thought what fascinated me about it, that there is no negative element in the film. There is no villain. There is no negative character. The situation brings in that conflict. That's what which fascinated, which is the reason, like Jackie is a nice guy, Aman is a nice guy, Emila is a nice guy. So there's actually no reason for a conflict. That subtlety is what I thought was really attracted me. So I saw it like a love story, yes, but I never, of course, there's humor in Amir's character, especially. But I would technically not call it a rom-com in the sense of the word. Yeah. I would still think of it as an intense love story.
What have you set out to achieve with this film, D Company? Are you trying to bring back the shootouts, the gore, the sex and the lust saga? What is it? Is it just about violence and the kind of template that
I'll tell you what really interested me in D Company is I'm a huge fan of Godfather the novel. not the movie so much as a novel. You know?
Okay.
And that's like a Mahabharata. You know, it is like the characters in Godfather novel. Like why I'm calling Mahabharata. Mahabharata, every character comes with the inherent background score.
Absolutely.
They're larger than life. They don't seem like normal people.
Yes.
You know. That treatment of the novel is what relatively I try to capture even in Sarkar, for example. See, Satya, I think, is more nearer to Goodfellas in terms of the kind of people I'm dealing with. Yes. So I thought all these guys, whether Aurangzeb, Amizada, Dawood Ibrahim, Sabir Kaskar, Haji Mastan, they all, over the years, have become like legends in my mind. They've become like actually unrealistic people who just existed in a time period when I was not there. And they seem so larger than life. So I wanted to capture the tenor of Godfather in trying to tell the story. So all of them, yes, they're normal people. And the rich and poor divide in terms of the failure in the law and order in the 1980s was so huge that from the poverty, they rise, most of them in the very beginning time. That doesn't mean all poor people become gangsters. That really don't mean that. But origin somewhere is from there. Because a person is very well-to-do, why would he do that? It's as simple as that. You know? Then there is a difference. Like if you look at the Haji Mastan, Karim Lala, those people, they've come from a certain time. When Dawood Ibrahim came, he was almost like Bill Gates. He saw it in a completely different way. And he's the guy who got this tag called company, D company. Why? Because till that time, there were only gangs. The Dongri gang, the Baikala gang, they used to be called like that. First time ever, they called it the D company because of the organizational structure he brought in. So a man who's never beaten anyone, who's never touched anyone, who probably never killed anyone, for that guy to finally make a street gang international crime syndicate, I thought it was a very interesting story. Yeah.
When you make films as realistic as the kind of films you make, exposing the underbelly of underworld, showing realistic instances of their life, capturing their emotions, showing reality as is, are you not afraid of threats? Do you get threats even in this day and age from the mafia world for showing reality as is?
I tell you, first of all, see, the mafia, a lot of people don't understand. It is a business organization. And violence doesn't happen as much as what we imagine to be. Okay. Of course, whenever they get a problem, they want to get rid of someone, they get rid of some stumbling block, they do that. And most of it is actually internal, I would say. I mean, the violence happens in intra-gang, not so much to the exterior. Only time it spilled onto the streets and it came into normal life is in 95, post serial blast, when Dawood Ibrahim and Chota Rajan have split. And all the rest of the gangs tried to jump in to take the top spot. So there was an escalation of activities during that time period. Otherwise, pretty much before 96 and after 2004, the underworld actually, you rarely hear about it. In fact, before the serial blast of 93, it was fashionable to know the underworld. They used to actually flaunt the connections, especially Bollywood people, you know. So coming back to this thing, them calling, actually they will be happy about it. Why would they have a seat? Because they do not have a reputation to protect. In fact, when they watch a movie like Satya, they saw I made it look like, I made them look like people, like everyday people, normal people, as much as you and me. And it is not like I'm not drawing lines between saying that they're Rakshasas and we are normal. And it is not that. In fact, the fact that I understood the human side of them is what really they liked. So the last thing they will do is to threaten me. Because see, whatever they're accused of, whatever pending cases in the court trials and all that is anywhere there. The media is talking literally about that. Okay. So the question, and also when some filmmakers claim that they get calls to drop the name or to change this and that, most of that is done by pranksters and very convinced about it.
Okay.
They get a SIM card and they plan it as if it's coming from outside and they do that, you know. And the actual people involved, I do not believe they care about such things.
There is this constant charge that is hurled at you, that while you are a path-breaking films, when the times were regressive for Indian cinema. And now when the times are changing and people are becoming more radical and experimenting with new thoughts and new ideas, you sort of have regressed. Do you take that charge on the chin? How do you deal with that charge?
I don't know in which film I regressed because I always kept on changing and I was never trying to do popular cinema. I always did films which excite me. So I don't know on which film basis they can use that word regress. So unless it is mentioned, I won't be knowing. Yeah.
One small last question, and with that we can depart, sir. We have been to your office, we have seen your office, and then there is a room called Tory Black. You have named actually a room after a porn star. Mr.
Yeah.
Mahesh Bhatt brought Sunny Leone in Mumbai. You made a film on Mia Malkova, another porn star.
Yeah.
Are you planning to bring any other adult film actor here in Mumbai? Is that a plan?
You seem very excited about the prospects of that. Yeah, I have plans, but I'll tell you the name later. Yeah.
Okay. With that, we can depart. Thank you so much for your honest answers, fantastic answers, and all the best for your film.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.